I am Halli Casser-Jayne, and welcome to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, where along with my partner in politics, veteran White House correspondent Matthew Cooper, we slice and dice all things politics, and some days, Donald Trump, too. Before we begin, Matt and I want to thank you for your loyalty to our podcast. We appreciate your support, and so do our advertisers. Now, on this episode of the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, we begin with the astonishing revelations found in legendary journalist Bob Woodward's new book, Rage, and end with a conversation with visionary co-founder of the Carlyle Group, philanthropist and author David Rubenstein's new book, How to Lead: Wisdom from the World's Greatest CEOs, Founders, and Game Changers. It's quite a journey in between. But up first, it's me and Matt. Here we go. Welcome, my friends. Here's where we are this week. We've reached yet another milestone. Yes, the weekly event. There are more than 6.42 million cases of COVID-19 in the United States, more than 193,000 dead, and the outbreaks are continuing to spread via classrooms, bar rooms, and via Trump, MAGA, super spreader rallies. We'll talk about that in a minute. And as we go to tape, there are 52 days, 15 hours, and 9 minutes until election 2020. But hey, who's counting? Good morning, Matt.
Good morning, Halli. How are you?
Let's start here. Today is the 19th anniversary of 9/11. I did a lot of 9/11 shows back in the day. And I want this to stop. I think we need to put this in perspective at this point and not give the Saudis and everybody else the glee. We need to put this into perspective. I was amused this morning when I went online, and there you were saying the same thing on an article you wrote for Medium. Like minds, talk to me.
Well, I think I know what you're saying, and I have a similar feeling. I actually have a piece up on Medium's magazine, Jen, about this. I hope that it was my hope that in time this becomes a little more like Pearl Harbor Day, that it's commemorated, it's observed, it's never forgotten. But this has had a role in our national life. I think that's not the commemoration of 9/11. That's not always been helpful beyond commemorating the dead and injured, which of course we must do. It's led to the Iraq War, the creation of the unmanageable Department of Homeland Security, lots of security theater. I do think that, as we approach the 20th anniversary next year, I hope in time this will have a less outsized role in our national life.
Yeah, I so agree with that.
That's not something you can dictate. That has to happen organically, and I suspect in 20 years from now it'll start to be different. But I think Pearl Harbor Day is kind of the model. Although I recognize that most people have no idea what Pearl Harbor Day is.
And that's where we need to get to in a way. It's there, we remember it. There's a certain solemnity to it, but enough. Biden pulled his ads today as he went to Pennsylvania, and all right, there you are. The saddest part of today, though, was a piece just broke. They know that 45 survivors of 9/11 have died from COVID. They've been doing some tracking, and I have to say, they showed pictures. They're all people of color. It's heartbreaking, and that's where we are today. We're at COVID today. But I also want to say this to bring things into perspective, Matt. Who knew that 19 years later we'd have a cynical grifter as POTUS and Rudy Giuliani, the hero of the day, would be working with Russian intelligence officer on behalf of that cynical POTUS to take down Biden. I mean, how weird is this?
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, among Trump's many, lies is the one that he went to, dozens of 9/11 funerals. Which he didn't.
Oh my God! Oh Lordy!
It's I think it was the historian Tony Judt said in an essay written the night of 9/11, this is the first day of the 21st century. And unfortunately, he was kind of right that, it's been a rough road since then. It's been a rough 19 years.
Yeah. Also, Trump secretly siphoned off $4 million from a program that tracks and treats firefighters from New York and media from 9/11 related illnesses. $4 million secretly siphoned off. That about says it all for Mr. Trump on that score. Let's move on.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. What can you say? All right.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, the grift is constant.
It's constant. And then we have Rage Woodward, Bob Woodward's book.
Right.
Oh,
well,
my
Halli,
God.
You've been down this road before with different Bob Woodward books. What's your sense of this?
This, to me, really and truly is reeks of the insanity that we're all engulfed in. Thank you, Mr. Trump. And we always call this man insane, and selfish and unfeeling. And people name all of those things to explain Trump. Could we add the word stupid?
Because he did these interviews?
Who in their right mind, anybody would sit down and let Bob Woodward have all of your time, nobody there really to help you, guide you through it, and let him tape you to boot? Give him your personal telephone number. Let him call you anytime he wants to catch you off guard. And stupid, Matt. Stupid. The man is stupid. He's so stupid, in my opinion. The smart people are being manipulated because they're thinking smart of him when he's stupid. And stupid gets around smart people. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I agree with you. It's if you're adroit, if you're like James Baker or somebody, and you want to talk to Bob Woodward for hours, to promote your side of a story, that's probably a smart move. If you're like a toddler in the middle of a highway on his tricycle, you're going to get run over. And he clearly did. And I guess he was convinced that had he spoken to Woodward more for his earlier book, he would have done better in that book.
Oh, I think what it is it's the toddler. Listen to me. Manipulating the parent.
Right,
I can make
you can't manipulate every parent.
Exactly. But I mean, that was it. I think if I smile, I give him what he wants. I seduce him. He'll write the book that I want. I mean, he's that naive, and naive is the nice word. Let's go stupid.
I mean, he's trying to talk his way out of COVID, so that's not a good sign.
Well, that's where he is now, but I don't think that's where he was when he did it. Like I said, stupid just fits, the bill for this guy. And I think, stupid can manipulate smart minds. He lied. Let's talk about how he absolutely lied and said, I was trying to, keep people, out of panic. Now he last night he invoked Churchill. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. Oh my God, Matt, it's insanity. But he lied. And he's continuing to lie. That's what's even more outrageous. We'll talk about that in a minute. But what was your take on the revelations that we've gotten so far? Because remember, folks, the book doesn't come out until next week, right?
Right.
And we're just getting, a little snippets of this sucker.
Well, I guess the biggest one is that Trump does seem to have appreciated the gravity, or not entirely, but he at least behind the scenes didn't think COVID was just going away or that it was not that big a deal. So, I'm a little surprised by that because I what do I know? But I thought he was genuinely under the delusion that it was not that big a deal. I didn't know he privately thought that. Now, Trump is saying now, well, he was just trying to get everyone to keep calm and carry on, that he was like Churchill. he was trying to show a stiff upper lip.
Oh, my God.
But that's not really what Churchill did.
No. And
Churchill didn't say the Nazis are no big deal.
Can I just take issue with one word? Yeah, can I take issue with one word you used, and that
Sure.
that Trump appreciate appreciated how bad this was. I wouldn't use the word appreciate there. He knew. Period. End of conversation. He'd been told. Okay. He'd been warned what was going to happen if he didn't nip this thing in the bud right from the start. And he made a concerted, we made a definitive decision. This is how the road that I'm taking on this, much obviously to the chagrin of so many around him at the time. A thought that just ran through my mind is this is what Woodward dropped to get people invested in his book. But you never give the worst of it or the best of it from the first shot. We're in for some rude stuff. I mean, on this in the next week, as far as I'm concerned. But getting back to Trump's thing, the thing that's so serious to me is not just, Matt, that he knew. Let's go to last night, because last night he did a rally in Michigan, which, by the way, broke Michigan's laws, and Michigan did not take action against him, which is everybody has laws and nobody takes actions against Trump. And he has this rally of maybe 5,000 people, no masks, no social distancing, on the heels of him admitting that he knows how dangerous COVID is. So he's continuing and he's defiant. What you tell me about a man who says, I know this is a brutal, killing pandemic, and on the other hand, I'm going to have my rallies and they're going to get bigger and bigger, and no masks, no social distancing 8 months later. You'll have to explain this to me, because this reeks of death wish or death knell or murder.
Yeah, well, I don't have a good answer, Halli. It does seem contradictory. You're right. I don't know how he explains it to himself or others around him. I mean, I guess the most charitable explanation is he thinks an outdoor rally is different, and he thinks that's not really a threat. I don't know, but you raise just the right point.
So then you take it to the people around him, not just in the White House, but in Congress, his GOP group, and you say, good Lord, what the hell? A friend of mine said to me the other day, smartly, Jonestown, he offered everybody, he got how many people to go fly to Jonestown, 900 people, and offered them Kool-Aid, and they went. And they killed themselves.
Well,
that's what happened last night, because people are going to die from that.
I can't know that for sure.
Well,
but it's certainly
the
risky.
odds are
certainly those kind of even outdoors.
Well, Sturgis. I mean, what did they were the 250 some odd thousand, 250. What was it? No, maybe over 2,000 cases are traced back to Sturgis and the motorcycle thing. All right, but the thing is, Trump has lied, and he continues to lie, and he continues to do what he wants to do. And there's something so twisted in this at this point. The little head doesn't want to go there. And we're talking 9/11. Can we talk the fact that he said the other piece that dropped from the book, Saudi Prince MBS?
Right. Yeah, that was not good.
He protected him, and he got Congress to back off from him. And this is about the death of, nationalist. He was a nationalist, not a true American citizen at this point, Khashoggi, who was killed. Matt, 9/11, MBS. And the other piece on that is the Congress. He said Congress backed off because of him. Who in Congress? And who's doing the work on that to go back and find out what this was really all about? Help!
I just want to be sure.
Go ahead, what?
I just want to be sure I follow you. You're saying that Trump protected the Saudis over the murder of this American resident, but
yes.
Saudi national journalist. You're saying he protected them because of 9/11,
No, not because of 9/11.
Their role in 9/11, or
he's doing deals with MBS. I mean, come on, the kid is his
well,
son-in-law.
There's no question he's doing. Yeah, no, he said as much. He's doing it to help the leader of Saudi Arabia. But you mentioned 9/11.
Well, because this is today 9/11, and last night No, I don't mean the connection that way. I mean the sickness of this is this story comes out last night on the eve of 9/11. Saudis, remember 9/11?
No, I know the Saudis.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying how sick this is. This is.
Oh, I see. You're saying it's sick. Okay, I just didn't know where.
I'm sorry, I wasn't clear. It's just so bad. It's so wrong.
Yes, that's particularly lovely timing, yes.
Okay, now I understand why Woodward dropped it then. because of the timing of it. I didn't see anybody pulling the pieces together here. And MBS is so much a part of, I know that Kushner is apparently in debt up to his eyeballs. He owns 666, I think, at this point, MBS, the building that Kushner almost lost in New York. We are all just victims of Trump's financial crazy, right?
Right. I mean, I don't know about the MBS role in 666.
Yeah. No, that's a pretty that's a pretty known story. But this is all wrapped together in the insanity and the crazy of it all. And in a way, the stupid, because I think the stupid comes into play here, Matt, because I think a lot of what Trump does is because he's so stupid, he gets himself in these fixes and he tries desperately to get them out. You know, it's like the kid who burned his finger, but his mother told him don't go near the stove, so he hides his finger. But then he has to do things like he's got to figure out a way to get some Band-Aid to help him because his finger hurts. I mean, this is Trump, and this is the world that we're in, and this is the life we're now leading because we're all in his crazy.
Well, I don't. I'm sorry, I'm just laughing at the analogy. We've had two toddler analogies here.
There's a lot because he's a toddler.
Yeah, I mean, there's really no parent in that analogy. In other words, he's not really being held to account.
Well, that's a big part of it, isn't it? Because the more he's not held to account, the more he does. That causes the problem. Again, he's now talking about having a party at the White House before the election, i.e., what's that law that you're not allowed to have political stuff on White House grounds?
Right, the
Hatch Act. And so they didn't call him on it on the first time, so now he's going to put his middle finger up and say, watch me do it again right before the election. This is it. You know, if you don't discipline a kid, they just get worse and worse and worse. Back to the toddler. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I shouldn't. Yeah, well, and you know what? I'm not sorry. What am I apologizing for? This is the fact.
I didn't ask you to apologize.
No, I know I am because I always feel like I need to apologize to you because I'm going off on my rant. My good, solid.
It's the Halli Casser-Jayne Show.
I know. But it's my good, solid friend, Matt.
Oh, no. Look, I think you're right. I think you're raising fundamental points. I'm not disagreeing. I mean,
yeah, I know. It just makes me sad.
Yeah, no, I know. I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, I'm very sad. I'm so sad. And last night he threw out, I think, a mutual friend of ours, Kathy Gray, who was showing pictures of the fact that only 10% people were masked and there was no social distancing. She works for the New York Times, I think, at this point, because she's moved around a lot, Kathy. But they threw her out. They followed her on Twitter, and they found her in the crowd, and they threw her out of
the Times correspondent there in Michigan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know her personally, as you suggested.
But how wild is this? This is...
I don't really even... first of all, it didn't seem exceptional what she did. I mean, that happens.
That's what she's there for. Hello. That's what she was credentialed to do. I mean, right?
Yeah, reporters write it every time they're there. I mean,
oh my God, it's just.
I was just struck as it wasn't that unusual.
No, it's just how crazy this whole thing is. We move on. Something also but before we move on, I just did make a note of this. He went on his rant last night at this rally, and it's worth going and listening to the rant, folks. He also said, and this scared me to death, indoctrinate your children. The Democrats are out to indoctrinate your children. That was not a word he just chose willy-nilly.
You know, I didn't see the context. It was sort of leftism. Is that his idea?
No, he was going, but listen, he's playing the socialist card right now. And he's doing it very effectively. And it's working very effectively. And I'll tell you where it's working, which is why I wanted to bring it up. And that's in the Hispanic population and the Cuban population in Florida, where the polls have gotten very tight. And it's mostly because of Trump getting the Cuban vote, which has always been Republican. But he's getting the Puerto Rican vote, and he's getting the Venezuelan vote, and he's suddenly way ahead of where Hillary was on the Latina vote in Florida, and it's because he's saying, watch out, folks, you're going to wind up in Florida exactly where you were in Cuba or Venezuela or Puerto Rico. kind of thing. So, stupid is as stupid does, but he's not so all, but he's got clever too. You can be stupid and clever.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, he's doing pretty well outside Florida too with Hispanics.
Yeah. So. And that just doesn't make sense to me. You'll have to explain it to me other than this. This is where he's at. He's hitting their funny bone, if you will.
I keep forgetting. I haven't heard that one in a while. I don't have a good explanation for it. I've seen some commentators say, well, it's because Biden's not doing enough to woo them, but that doesn't seem like a very adequate explanation. I mean, the conventional wisdom had been like he's totally anti-immigrant and, he's keep saying that, like, Trump Tower has the best taco salad in the world, and he says a Hispanic judge can't be fair, and people just assumed that, with some reason that, the Hispanic vote for him would be terrible, that it might start to get down to where the, black vote is, like in the 10% range. But obviously that hasn't happened. So what's the explanation? I don't really know. Maybe it's the, Hispanic, the voting age citizen Hispanic population here is not as incensed about deportation as lots of white reporters thought so.
I think it's a case of vote against your own best interests. Hello, that's it, and there must be a certain sensitivity to, or you make a little money and suddenly you're not the Puerto Rican or the Venezuelan or the Cuban. You're better than the plebes. Yeah,
I think that's right. That could be. I mean, I don't have a good sense of this, but I've been wondering.
But it's worrisome.
It's a big effing deal.
It is a big effing deal, and I'll be curious to see how
Florida and Nevada because of this. I mean, forget Arizona if this is the case. If Biden and Democrats have this beef with Hispanics, then there goes that whole tier. I don't think we know yet where that's going, but it's worrisome for Democrats.
Yeah, it's very worrisome. And okay, so this is a story that just percolated in the last 24 hours. Let's see what Biden does with all of this. I will say this, Trump has taken a lot of shots against Biden. None of them are working at all. And the polls really, for all intent and purposes, as you pointed out to me, steady.
Pretty steady. Yeah. I mean, you got to watch the individual state numbers, but
I was watching that.
In general,
yeah, go ahead.
Certainly nationally, pretty steady for a long time,
and even state by state.
But we're coming up on the debates, which can be transformative. So,
could be. I said it.
You beat me to the could be. Halli.
I beat you to the could be. Yeah, maybe. I know, honey. I'll let you. You can come back at me with that one later.
Thanks,
but the Trump shots, as I said, at Biden, they're not working. Now he's on Kamala, who he calls Camilla. But I think they've positioned her wonderfully. She is fun. They took the edge off of her. She shows up in her sneakers and her high tops. She's smiling. She's not Law and Order. She's just a cheerleader, and it's working, in my opinion. Maybe you have a different opinion.
Yeah, I don't know. I think so. I mean, she's not scaring the suburbs, right? I mean, she's not like.
Right.
He's not been able to turn her into a scary,
woman of color.
Foreigner. And, he's just not, he's not really been able to demonize her so far. So that's a plus. And then, she's always had a very sort of, I don't know if charismatic's the word, but sort of very charming, mien and appearance, as you were saying. So, that's all been good. I mean, is she actually, rallying the base or, moving more votes into the column? I don't know, but she's certainly not. There's certainly no problem here. And I think he would have had a lot more to work with, Elizabeth Warren.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. She absolutely.
And I think if he had, said, no, I'm going to take a moderate, white woman like Klobuchar or Whitmer, then he'd be, he would have had all kinds of internal problems in the party. So, I think she's doing probably as well as anyone can. And I think she'll probably do well with Pence. So.
Yeah, I'll just be curious as hell to see what happens if they utilize her for the Hispanic vote.
Well, it's an interesting question.
Yeah, more than Biden. More than Biden. We got to move on because we're tight on time today.
Yeah, gotta go.
Yeah, got it. So I wanted to go to this. I wanted to go to Trump's money woes. Now,
yes.
Let me just say this, and then I'll throw it over to you.
I hope you're donating.
Here's yeah.
He needs you, Halli.
Oh, honey. I made a big deal about this and talked to friends of mine in the press about this because I couldn't understand why the silence. When Biden came out with his astonishing revelation of his $368 million haul in August, not a word came out of the Republican Party and Ronna McDaniels, who's running all of that for them.
Right. What did you call her the other day?
Cupcake. I call her Cupcake.
You had one of your great nicknames.
I call her Cupcake. I've been calling. It's so her.
You're such a mean girl.
I'm not a mean girl, but that's it.
No, you're not.
I could have called her a lot worse than that, honey, but I didn't. I stuck with Cupcake. But here's the deal. So when all of the crazy was going on in the last couple of days, they finally released the number quietly. Nobody picked up on it. I'm not even going to tell you, one of my favorite reporters from the Washington Post, a good friend of mine, didn't say $210 million to the others 306.
And their spending rate, their burn rate.
This is why I say to you, I knew there was more to this story than met the eye, because how else could you explain? It wasn't just the lack of money as compared to what Biden raised, but there had to be more to them being silent on what they had. So here we are. And I can't find a story about this anywhere other than to say somewhere. Maybe it was Axios or somebody just said, oh, and by the way. So anyway, there are no ads in Florida on Trump right now. I've got the TV running on every station from here to whatever.
I think they pulled them on 9/11, right? I mean,
no. That's Biden today, but I'm saying in general. That's
not good if you're off the air.
Yeah, no, he's been off the air at least here, and so I find that fascinating. But there it is. So, there is that. He can't even manage money in his own campaign. Never mind the $27 trillion, deficit we have thanks to him. I mean, this is a mess. And you just not getting through to the people out there. They had people who they interviewed at the rally last night. You had to hear them. Why aren't you wearing a mask? I got the Lord on my side. There is no COVID. It's a hoax. Welcome to America.
Yeah, I mean, the conspiracy level is just, it's bonkers. Now, if they said, hey, look, we're outside, it's not so bad, but saying there's no COVID, that's, we're into some deep crazy there.
Well, and you know why I also bring that up, and that is because even if Biden wins, those people are still going to be out there. And Jim Jordan is going to still be there, and all these. What are we in for?
We've seen the movie of what they, Republican relations with Obama and Clinton. I mean, it's going to be 10 times worse.
You were listening to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. The Halli Casser-Jayne Show posts new podcasts weekly at hallicasserjayne.com and is available wherever you listen to your podcasts. Be sure to find us on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, on all your favorite apps. You can find the Halli Casser-Jayne Show on your Alexa device, too. Just say, the Halli Casser-Jayne Show. Oh, and come play with me on Twitter at the Halli CJ Show. A couple of other things I wanted to bring up here. We talked about Rudy Giuliani, but we didn't talk about the fact that this Russian agent who he had been dealing with, who he said he didn't know was a Russian agent, who has now been cited by the feds for being a Russian agent, who was giving him all the nasty dirt on Hunter Biden. I think at this point Hunter Biden is out of the crosshairs. I don't think they're going to put Giuliani up against that. Do you?
I don't think so, but there's a lot of chutzpah. I mean, it's true they haven't really done that much on it anyway after all that sort of
it didn't play
threatening. So I don't know if they come back to it at the end. And I mean, they make up a lot of stuff, so I don't know what'll stop them from.
Well, I think the reason that they aren't going to do it is because I think it's going to put Giuliani into some maybe legal problems.
Could be.
There we go. You got you got yours in.
Well, Rudy, what an asset, yes.
Yeah. Oh, geez, I'll tell you, who would have ever thought, as I said, from 9/11 to today. This whistleblower, there are two whistleblowers now. I can't keep track of all of this at this point, but there are two whistleblowers, and one named, one unnamed. But this is an important story, and it kind of goes into that. They were told to downplay. This one, Chad Wolf, told senior official to downplay interference in Russian interference in the election, Ukrainian, whatever. I mean, it's still going on. It's still going on.
Oh yeah, and the big thing from a week or two ago, when the head of national intelligence said, "Oh, we're not going to send our personnel in person over there to talk about election interference. We'll send you a little written report that we think's okay, but we're not going to go over and talk to Congress," which is really how intelligence gets disseminated to Congress. I mean, yeah, they don't want to talk about it. They're covering up. It's very disturbing.
So let me give you a little piece that you'll find interesting. This is just a sidebar. St. Lucie County, which is kind of where I'm in Florida.
Right.
Revealed in the Woodward book, by the way, a story that broke about a year ago and got no play about the fact that the voter rolls had been hacked by the Russians.
Right.
And DeSantis just wiped it off the face of the map. No story. Brian Mast, who is this just horrid person who is the congressional representative from this district, double amputee, or triple actually, I think, from the Afghanistan war, but also found on Facebook to be soliciting young women, and he's still up for re-election, probably get re-elected. But in Woodward's book, it comes out that not only were the voters' rolls hacked, but the woman who runs the voter rolls in this lied and said no, as did DeSantis and Mast. So they know what's going on, and they're still covering up, and they're still playing the game, and this is really ugly. And at some point, somebody's got to take control of all of this, because in a way, we're right back where we started in 2016, right. And that scares the bejesus off of me, and it should everybody else. Can I just run because I'm running through because we're short on time, as I said. Let me get to Michael Cohen, Bob Woodward.
I hope you get him on the show. Book tour. He's that would be a show.
I'm going to try and get him, actually. But
good stuff.
But here's the deal. He got stepped on by Woodward. Yeah. Which is really too bad, because he's a very interesting interview. He's a fascinating guy. Because he's vulnerable, he's boyish, he's a bit of a mensch at this point, but he's a killer. But it doesn't come through at all, which is what made him the perfect fixer for Trump.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, he was tough. I mean, remember when he was threatening reporters before he turned on Trump, and Trump turned on him?
The only time, by the way, that Trump has not tweeted about a book was he even tweeted about Woodward. Michael Cohen didn't get one blip on his Twitter feed. So that's how upset he is about Michael Cohen's book. So in a way, Michael Cohen's book, although I mentioned all these other things about Michael Cohen, has to be put in his own perspective, a proper perspective, because Michael Cohen is a killer. I mean, I don't mean literally kill.
Right, sure.
He's a killer.
Right.
And you got to put it in its perspective, but Trump took it seriously more than any of the other books. And I find that fascinating. Trump, list of potential judges: Ted Cruz, Tom Cotton. Oh, God. Matt?
Yeah, well, this helped him with the religious right last time, the sort of idea of a list of judges. Like, hey, here are the judges.
Yeah.
I'm thinking of, they're only going to come from this list. And that way there are no surprises. There are no, David Souters, John Roberts. You're not going to be disappointed. These are going to be solid citizens. And first you can never predict, right? I mean, Gorsuch voted to, with the Civil Rights Act.
Yeah, it's just...
You can't predict. And second, it's such a crazy pander, but, it's a pander that worked last time.
Well, listen, when all the shit hit the fan on the Woodward book, it was the first tweet that came out of Pence.
Right. I mean, it's a trick up their sleeve, and it...
No, Pence's was abortion. Here we go.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they just go back to the same old...
If that's what they're campaigning on in September, that's not a good sign for them. I mean, they're supposed to be adding votes, not trying to keep their most devoted supporters from fleeing or staying home.
Okay, quickly to the economy. 800,000 new jobless claims for 6 months straight now. And Trump is touting this is how wonderful this is. Peak week of the 08 recession was 665,000. New jobs. Jobs aren't coming back. The percentage of jobs lost permanently is just...
There is no question.
Yeah.
I mean, we see the collapse in retail. I mean, every week another venerable name in retail.
Right. Century 21 just went under.
Century 21, big in Northeast, Brooks Brothers, we've seen it all. So it's ugly out there. A lot of these jobs aren't coming back. Some are. We still don't know what the COVID situation will be as we get into cold weather and flu season. So it's a big mess. Meanwhile, if you're in Copenhagen or Seoul or, Tokyo, it's, the kids are in school.
Let's talk about school. Let's talk about school. Yeah, no, it's crazy.
We're the stupid country.
Well, listen, like I said, Trump, stupid. Hello.
Yeah. We're not the envy of the world this week.
Not at the moment. Not at the moment. I let me throw this out real quick. Off the front pages, not working for Trump, Black Lives Matter, Law and Order anymore. Gone, baby, gone. Last week we talked losers and suckers, Jeffrey Goldberg. That's how fast the cycle moves. That's not a topic of conversation. But we will talk about coronavirus very quickly. 100,000 less tests than a month ago, Matt. Another underreported story. So that when you start to see the numbers come down, there's a reason they're not testing. Trump said, don't test. They're not testing. Anthony Fauci opened a mouth yesterday and said, hey guys, I am concerned, seriously concerned for now, for the winter. Here we go.
Right. About the testing. Yeah.
Not just about the testing, but about the cases, because he warned. He said, "This is, it's not gonna be an easy winter." I think that was a pretty close quote to what he said yesterday. As he's been completely sidelined, although he stood up for Trump in one way after the Woodward thing. But that's Anthony Fauci. And I talked to Anthony, to David Rubenstein, who's in this.
Oh yeah, how was your? I can't wait to listen to.
Yeah,
it.
that's that, and I bring this up because I talked to David about it. He did an interview with Fauci Fauci had a lot to say about all of this and about Trump, and I kind of defended Fauci on the one hand with David, but then I've been saying right along he's been walking this fine line with Trump, trying to keep a foot in the door, and so he manipulates. I mean, and that's why he remains and has remained in this long, storied career that he has. But at this point, he's in his 80s, I think, by the way. He looked terrific. He really needs to, shut Trump down at this point. Because Fauci. That's what I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's not easy to do.
But he doesn't have his foot in the White House anymore. This other moron who's actually the radiologist is the one who he puts.
We got the radiologist.
And Birx is completely out of there. Everything's going to be fine. I'm just saying.
You're not so down on Marks anymore.
On who?
On, what's her name? The other doctor.
Birx. She's gone.
Yeah.
When was the last time you saw her or her scarf?
No, I know, but you were down on. You were twirled.
I don't. Yeah, and I was right. She's an idiot, and she wasn't
She's not an idiot.
She is an idiot. I'm sorry, and here's why. she knew what was going on and she let him get away with it. Fauci.
Well, I think she made the calculation. A lot of people there do that.
They're going to be the one to change Trump.
They're better off with me than without me. I got to stay, try to make it better. If I throw a big fit, I'm not going to be here.
Oi. Ivanka Trump says she's trusted the FDA so much she will take the vaccine. On The View, I asked Frau Ivanka if she would let her children do the same. I want to get to Florida, and this ties into a national thing. 23,000 cases of COVID in the schools that we know of. Here's why. DeSantis put out an edict that the schools were not allowed to publish the cases, but some schools have been defying the governor. 11,000 cases of COVID kids under the age of 4 or something. They're super spreaders because they're going home. And now you're hearing all these cases that happen. It's all, I got it from my kids. People who have the virus, Matt, likely to have eaten in restaurants. So we know the numbers are fake in Florida for a multitude of reasons. And here's where we are. People, as I said, with the virus have twice as likely to eat in restaurants. And last night, the great Ron DeSantis says we're going to open our bars and restaurants again to 50% capacity. And one of the great epidemiologists made the statement today that when the last surge occurred, it came out of kids being the carriers, and they're worried. But the shortfall on the budget in Florida is massive because Florida's there's no income tax here, is from tourism.
Right.
And this will put DeSantis completely out of the running for, which would be happy for me. He's the most disliked governor anyway, so I say goodbye to him anyhow. But there you go. Just needed to put that out there. Is that something that you want to say more about?
Well, we've got 2 years left in this term. We'll see what happens.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't look good, but, weirder stuff's happened. Well, look, I mean, you got to... I can't believe we have to discuss this. You can't conceal numbers. You can't lie about numbers. That's bad.
You think?
Kids, restaurants, causes for concern. Kids in restaurants, probably the worst.
Oh, my God. What a mess, huh?
This is not a good Chuck E. Cheese period.
No, it's not a good. And I think this is the combi for the storm. Honestly, I gotta wrap it up. But I will say that fires out west, just unbelievable. I've never seen footage or still shots like
orange
that.
Sky.
Good Lord, it's just it truly is, hell out there. But climate change, which should be front and center, isn't. Donald Trump is. And the other thing is DeJoy manipulated campaign donations. We're going to pick that up at some further date because I think there's a big story there. Yeah, that's not a good thing, and not at all. And the court ordered undocumented workers to be included in the census, which of course Trump was trying desperately to stop. But the case that's so disgraceful is this thing with Barr getting involved in the E. Jean Carroll case, where she has DNA on Trump and has accused him of rape.
Right. This is the writer who said, he assaulted her, and she's got a case in court, and he basically went in and said, the feds are going to get in here.
Unprecedented.
Oh, yeah, clearly a private case between Citizen Trump and this writer. I mean, the federal Justice Department was not called in to defend Clinton on Paula Jones. There were issues that grew out of it that eventually they did, but that's not what we're talking here.
No, this is pretty bad, if you ask me. So that's where we are today, 9/11, 2020. Last question for you: if the election were held tomorrow, this is so mean. Who wins?
I would be a huge Trump supporter. If the election were held tomorrow, I would write in Tulsi Gabbard.
Who? What? No, seriously, what do you think?
I still think you'd rather be Biden right now than Trump. Pretty big, consistent lead, a lot of money. Nothing is working against you.
Okay.
I would say Biden, but, can Trump win? Yeah, I think it's possible. I think, can he eke this out? And this Hispanic problem that Biden's got is real. So, it ain't over.
As the who said, it ain't over till the fat lady sings. I guess we'll title the show that this week. Nice talking to you.
All right, Cupcake.
Get off my phone.
All right. Talk to you later.
All right,
Have
honey.
fun.
Thanks.
Bye.
You too. Bye. A visionary, co-founder of the Carlyle Group, host of Bloomberg TV's The David Rubenstein Show, philanthropist and author, Rubenstein's new book is How to Lead: Wisdom from the World's Greatest CEOs, Founders, and Game Changers. Rubenstein, a leader himself, one loath to talk about his own skills and accomplishments, explores the principles and guiding philosophies of some of the great leaders of our day, including conversations with Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, and Dr. Anthony Fauci. Visionaries, builders, transformers, commanders, decision-makers, masters. How to Lead is a probing examination of leadership. In a time when this nation's principles and guiding philosophies are on the ballot, How to Lead is a conversation well worth having. Let's talk with David Rubenstein. Hi, David.
Hi. How are you?
I'm terrific. Nice to have you back here. And with a really,
Thank you.
Every book you write gets better and better and better. I'm having so much fun with reading your stuff.
Well, thank you.
You're quite welcome. You yourself are one of the nation's great leaders, but it's funny how reluctant you were to tell your story. I was reading and I said, I can feel the reluctance.
Well,
yeah, well, I know. But tell me this. So many great people in this book. How to Lead. Is the ability to lead a skill that can be acquired or one that comes naturally or both? Talk to me about that.
Well, I think people have been debating that for a long time, but I think in the end, while in some cases you might be born to parents who are great athletes, you might have good athletic genes, and maybe they can be developed early on. Generally, I think leaders are people that learn skills relatively early in life, and then they perfect them as they get older. But one of the points I wanted to make in the book is that very often the people who are the student body presidents in high school or the great athletes or the class presidents don't turn out to be the great leaders in their 40s or 50s or 60s. So it's a process of evolution. And many of the people who become leaders in our country are people that were not thought to be leaders when they were much younger. My high school class or my college class, I doubt if many people even knew I was in the class because I wasn't a leader. And so I got lucky in life and things worked out well for me. But, if you could think back on your high school class, who were the leaders and whatever happened to them? Did they turn out to be as successful as you thought they would be? In many cases, they probably did not.
No, it's funny. I have a theory about that. I say if you peak too young, it's over. You know what I'm saying?
One of the reasons is that when people tell you how great you are when you're young, you don't really learn the skills of how to overcome defeat. You don't really persist as much, and you coast for a while, and eventually people that are still working hard pass you by.
You know what? I think there's great truth to that. You mentioned the word luck, and I do want to bring that up because how much is luck?
Well, you make your own luck in life, there's no doubt, but you make your luck by getting to know people, by people helping you, by doing things that might help other people. But in the end, I've had a lot of luck in my life. If I hadn't met this person or that person, I wouldn't be where I am today. But, in the end, I think luck is something that makes people realize that if it wasn't for something fortuitous happening, they wouldn't be where they are. That's why I think many of the great leaders that I've written about in the book are people who are humble because they realize there was a lot of luck involved. And if they hadn't, had this lucky break or that lucky break, they would not be so well known. So I think the best leaders are really people that have some humility about what they've accomplished.
I love that word humility. Boy, a whole lot of people could use a whole lot of that these days. I want to just throw out some of the names of the people who you do speak with. There are tons, folks, and I want you to read. This is such a great read. I'm not kidding, and you can read it a little bit at a time. Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Bill Clinton, Anthony Fauci, Jeff Bezos, Richard Branson, who I'm very interested in these days, Nancy Pelosi, Tim Cook. You break it down into visionaries, builders, transformers, commanders, decision makers, and masters such as Yo-Yo Ma. I was wondering what these people share in common or not.
Well, they didn't come from extremely wealthy families. Generally, if your family is in the Forbes 400, you might not have the drive to become that successful. That's just a fact of life. Secondly, they all stumbled early in their life. They all had failures. They all had to overcome problems. And I think third, they basically pick themselves up and they move forward. But in the end, they mastered some skill. They figured out how to focus on something and make that skill their skill that's maybe the best in the world. And in the end, they relied on other people. They listened to other people. Oprah Winfrey would say she's not a great interviewer, she's a great listener, and that's what is the key to her success. And Phil Knight would say that the same thing. He built his company by listening to people around him and telling them what would be good ideas and what would not be good ideas. So listening is an important skill, too.
I'm wondering if we need to define the word leader. You got a thought on that?
The question is, think about it. We have 7.5 billion people on the face of the earth. If everybody said, I'm going to be the national leader of my country or the global leader, we have chaos. You can't have 7.5 billion leaders. You have to have some people who really give people direction and give people some hope and some reason to want to follow them. And so some people emerge as the leaders over a period of time. And I think leaders are people that get other people to follow them. But I think really for good purposes is what you really want leaders to do. You can always have a terrible leader leading people into the wrong thing, but you really want to train and grow leaders who have the right motivations and want to lead people because they want to make humanity better, not because they want to be rich or famous.
Hold on to that thought for a minute because I want to go down that road with you, but I want to ask you this. Why did you write this now?
I did this now because I am 71 years old, and I realize when you get to be 71, you're not going to likely live for another 30 years or so, most likely. So I'm trying to do something that would motivate younger people to want to be leaders. I'd like to leave a legacy for my own children and grandchildren to say this is something I did. I wrote a book, and I also had the pleasure of interviewing these people, and I thought it'd be nice if people could read about these interviews because not everybody watches the TV show that I interviewed them on, and so that's why I did it.
Okay, well, that's a good reason. Yes. More people in the book. Melinda Gates, Warren Buffett, Oprah Winfrey. Forgive me and my negativity. I'm going negative here. But maybe it's just the way I'm feeling these days. But I think this country and the world are in a lousy place, David. I really do. And I wonder if who we look up to as our leaders today, people successful in building businesses, making tons of money, people achieving success for themselves, sports figures even, get too much recognition. Spiritual leaders, which you didn't do in this book, like the Dalai Lama, for instance, no, not so much. Have we lost our way? Have our leaders lost their way? Let me ask you that.
Well, let's put it this way. If the Constitutional Convention, we had 55 white Christian property owner men, and they came up with the Constitution. If we had a new Constitutional Convention today, we obviously wouldn't have all white Christian property men. We'd have a more balanced, gender-diverse group, which would be good. But who would be those 55 people? Who would we want? Well, it probably wouldn't be 55 people who were serving in Congress or governors. It would probably be people with different backgrounds, and that's because the best people in our country today don't often want to go into government. There's some very talented people in government, but sure, we have great people running universities, running foundations, doing nonprofit things, and in business, and so you'd want a cross-section. Right now, going into politics is very difficult. The compensation is low. If you don't have money, very difficult to have a reasonable family life with a low compensation. You also have to spend all your time raising and begging for money, and the social media is now so difficult that anything you do, it can attract people to criticize you. So it's a difficult life.
Is success overrated? Success in terms of how we're discussing it now. Let me put it that way. I mean, because you can be a successful mom or a successful daddy, but we seem to have this thing in this country about going to the top of the heap in terms of money and big corporations, yada yada yada, and great big sports to people. Is it overrated?
Well, Thomas Jefferson wrote about the importance of the pursuit of happiness, but he never defined what happiness is. So the happiest people I know are very often people that I haven't written about or you haven't heard about because they're their mothers or fathers, they're raising their family, they're very happy. As you get into the place where you're talking about people that are well known, some of them are tortured souls because they don't really lead because of the right reasons. Some people are very happy because they realize they're trying to do something that makes the country and society better. So if you're a leader, you have to do it for the right reasons, and I think that will give you happiness. In my own case, I'm pretty happy because I think I'm doing something useful in my philanthropic life now, and I enjoy doing that. But in the end, the thing that makes people the most happy in the end is probably raising successful and healthy and happy children. Very difficult to do. And Jackie Kennedy famously said that if you mess up raising your children, nothing else in life really matters. And raising children is not easy, as we all know, but that's in the end probably going to be the legacy that I will probably leave behind. I have 3 children. I think they're in reasonable shape, but everybody that has children know that it's not easy to raise children.
I really needed to bring that up because I really do think that the yin and the yang is kind of off kilter these days in my opinion. And I'm talking to the great David Rubenstein. So
Right.
who the hell am I to say it? But you got my drift, right? Because I've been thinking a lot about ethics and morality. I mean, look, it's a dog world out there, and many have chosen to live by the end justifies the means. That's not how I grew up. And I don't remember the world being like that when I was growing up, and you and I are within,
Right.
the same generation.
Well, you're much younger, but I would say that...
You don't know that.
No doubt that I can tell from your voice you're much, much younger.
Oh,
but
yes.
I would say that the case is clear that some people want to be leaders for the wrong reason. They want to be people telling them how great they are, or they want money or fame or whatever. But I think the people that are the people you most admire are people that are selfless. And you mentioned one earlier, the Dalai Lama. And he's a person that you could say is pretty selfless about what he cares about. But a lot of people in this book are people relatively selfless. They're giving away all their money. They don't really care about material possessions. Warren Buffett being a good example of that.
You didn't include an interview with the current president of the United States, the leader of the free world. Let me say that again. The leader of the free world. Why not?
Right. I interviewed Donald Trump before he was president. When he was getting ready to run for president, he told me in the green room he was going to run for president. And I said, "President of what?" I didn't know he was going to run for president of the United States. And he liked the interview a lot. And I have gone to see him and ask him if I could do an interview for him. But when the pandemic arose, I couldn't get it organized and get it scheduled. But I hope to do another interview with him at some point. I think right now in the campaign it might be difficult, but maybe after the election, whatever happens, I hope to interview him again. But I just couldn't get a presidential interview scheduled at the time because of the pandemic.
I gotcha. You did talk to Anthony Fauci, who you had interviewed, and you went back and re-interviewed, and it's an extraordinary conversation. I just want to say that at the time that you originally, he was talking about 70,000 deaths from COVID in America as the projection. Today, they projected 410,000 by January 1st. He may be the most likable man ever. What's your thoughts on him? He fascinates me.
Now, Tony Fauci is somebody I've known for a long time. His brother-in-law worked at my firm for a long time, so I got to know him many, many years ago. And I tried to recruit him to join my firm when he turned 70. I said, "Look, you've been a selfless public servant for a long time. Why don't you make some money, go into healthcare or private equity investing?" And he said, "David, I don't care about money. I just want to help the country, and I'm really an infectious disease person." So now he's almost 80 years old, and he's tirelessly working around the clock. And yes, we have had 180,000 deaths so far. I would say that, I don't blame him for that. I would say that many, many things probably could have done better. And he would say that maybe he could have done some things better as well. But I think he is a real voice for truth, and I think we should listen to him a lot more. I
didn't mean to imply that it was his fault, because it wasn't his fault. I think the man is doing an extraordinary job. And where would we be without Tony, right? The last time you and I talked, just before COVID erupted, you said these weren't the best of times or the worst of times, and you thought Trump would win election. Okay, David, what do you think now?
I think it's too difficult to predict what's going to happen. I think had we not gone into the pandemic and the recession, I think probably President Trump would have been reelected without a lot of question. Today, it's too early to say. I've been wrong in predicting who's going to be elected president. I was wrong the last couple times, so I'm not going to say. But it's clearly an uphill fight for him. But I wouldn't rule it out because, elections tend to get closer and closer as they get to the election date. And because of the complications of the pandemic, we don't know who's going to show up to vote and so forth and so on. So I would say on election night, we'll know who's likely to be the winner. But some people might think we might not know for another week or two afterwards because of all the mail-in ballots.
Let me put it in a different way. Do we need new leadership?
Well, the country will let us know pretty quickly, I would say. But I would say, that's the great thing about our democracy. We have a choice every 4 years about what we're going to decide, and time will tell. So I don't know what's going to happen. I wish I could predict, but I thought that my boss, Jimmy Carter, would get reelected. I thought Hillary Clinton would be president of the United States. I thought Michael Dukakis would be president of the United States. So I'm wrong most of the time. That's why people probably shouldn't listen to me.
Anyway, you know what? You are so wonderful to talk to. Thank you so much. Love this book. I've been speaking with David Rubenstein. His book is How to Lead, Wisdom from the World's Greatest CEOs, Founders, and Game Changers. To learn more about David, his philanthropy, his work, and how to purchase the book, visit davidrubenstein.com. hallicasserjayne.com. Thank you for tuning in to the Halli Casser-Jayne Show, a production of Resec, LLC. The Halli Casser-Jayne Show posts new podcasts Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern, and is available at hallicasserjayne.com and on all your favorite apps. Be sure to visit us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and follow me on Twitter at The Halli CJ Show. Until next time, this is Halli Casser-Jayne.